Hey, what's up, everyone? Ruben here. So this is the Kindred Dog Podcast, and on this episode, I wanted to talk about this idea that if you use tools, you are like not positive reinforcement or something like that. So we've had a few contact forms come in, and this has just been something that has popped up over the last 11 years, is like when people see on our website that, oh, you use prong collars, you use e-collars, and there's this like automatic assumption that like, I don't know, we train differently than everybody else or something like that. And the only thing that these tools represent is actually a more robust toolbox. There are so many trainers out in the world, here in Portland included, that limit themselves. You know, they believe that there is just a certain way to do things. It's ultimately, some of those things have a ceiling, right? And like that's what happens when you put limitations on yourself, is that you just create ceilings for yourself, right? So like, does every dog need a prong collar? Probably not. Does every dog need an e-collar? Maybe so, if you have hopes for off-leash freedom and things like that. But that might not always be the case either, you know what I mean? But like, by saying no to those tools, you are automatically putting limitations on yourself. You know, I can't speak to other people, but how we train is predominantly positive reinforcement, force-free training, right? And like, there are other things that we could talk about, you know, I mean, I don't know if force-free actually exists. Like, if you use a leash, there's inherently going to be force used in that picture, right? So like, if you stop your dog from doing something and they're on a leash, you're inherently using force. So I don't believe that actually exists, but you know, I digress. Predominantly our training involves tons of food, tons of play, okay? We teach the dog exactly what we want them to be doing in so many different aspects, because if my dog is having troubles, I'm always asking myself, like, how can I be better at teaching my dog what I want from them in this moment? It doesn't mean I need to start, you know, putting the e-collar on them and start blasting them, right? Like, that would suck. You know what I mean? Like, you're not having fun, the dog's not having fun. And so we spend a ton of time teaching our dogs. We start inside, we use our dog's food for training, you know, we get them feeling good about the commands, you know, just all this stuff, right? We play with them. And then we want to take that stuff outside. We want to work them for their food outside. We want to play with them outside. We build up these skills so much, and we focus so much on teaching our dogs what we want them to be doing, that like, corrections are almost, I mean, they are very seldom, right? Because a lot of dogs, they just don't know what the expectations are, okay? And so we got to teach them what those expectations are. But also, let's not get confused on what a correction looks like, right? Corrections are just things that your dog finds valuable or meaningful. You know, a simple could be enough of a correction to stop a dog from doing something. Okay, can it be like, can the correction be higher? Absolutely. I mean, it always just depends on the dog. Okay, and people will contact me for lessons, and they'll be like, "Are we going to use an e-collar?" And I'm like, "No. Like, you first need to learn how to use a leash. You first need to learn how to do timing. You first need to learn how to use your food correctly. You first need to learn how to play with your dog correctly." Like, there's so many things that you need to learn before you even think about getting your hands on an e-collar. I've had rescue organizations with clients who, you know, they know that we train with these tools, or we have the knowledge to train with these tools, that they try to steer their adopters away from training with us, because they just have this perception in their mind that like, we're going to put an e-collar on a dog and just start like punishing them. Okay, like, if you are going to actually train with a prong collar or an e-collar or a slip lead or something like that, like, it actually increases the amount of time that you have to train your dog. It increases the steps in order to train your dog. Being on a leash is just one thing, and then when you add in an e-collar, it's like you're adding a whole nother element of training into your dog. So it's like, you know, some people want to say it's the short, quick fix, and it's actually the longer fix, right? I mean, like, it adds way more time onto your training, because you have to do way more training to get your dog to understand this tool. And I do encourage my clients, you know, after they have done the fundamentals, right? Like, typically it's our like 5-lesson program that we have. It's called the Smart Start. Like, when clients have finished that, typically they have a very robust knowledge of the fundamentals, right? Just the foundations of dog training. Their dog understands the leash. They understand their own technique. They know how to use their food. They know how to use their toys. They know how to use the leash and manage the leash, and all of those little aspects that go into it. And then I say, hey, you know what? If you're interested in e-collar training, let's get that going, because you have all of this other previous knowledge that you are ready to put this tool into place. Okay, and there's a whole process on it. And real quick is basically like, you find the dog's working level, which is the smallest, like the lowest level that they can perceive. Okay, and this is like a TENS unit on a chiropractor TENS machine, right? It's a muscle stimulator, so it's not a shock collar. Okay, I know it's referred to one oftentimes, but that's old 70s, 80s, 90s, right? Technology is way better now. And so you find that level, could be a 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And it's basically like you tap the remote and then you give your dog some food. But your dog also understands some marker words, right? So it's like, we train this yes word, okay? And you tap it and you go, yes, boom, you give the dog some food. Tap, yes, give the dog some food. So then the dog starts to understand, like, oh, okay, so when I feel this, it means run to dad to get some food. I feel this, I run to mom to get some food, okay? So we build this understanding in the dog. And then it's a long process of teaching the dog exactly what it is to do with this collar, right? But they have a very firm understanding of the basics, because the e-collar doesn't train the dog. It only enhances the training that you have done previously with your dog. So it is 100% not a quick fix, okay? It takes time, it takes nuance, it takes a careful hand. I mean, it's a challenging tool. But in the short of it is, it's like, yeah, we do train with these tools. We have the ability, I would say, to train with these tools. So if you want to learn how to use it, you want to learn how to use them correctly, then we can show you how to do that. We don't limit ourselves. And I mean, I've trained my own personal dogs on e-collars years ago, and it was a game changer, But I also had the same mindset previously. I thought of them as like not great. You know what I mean? Like, I remember way back in the day, I had this dog, Oso. You all, if you've all been following me for a while, you know who he is. He was this white French bulldog, really dog aggressive, human aggressive. And I did a bunch of different training with him, all from both extremes. Okay. One side saying, don't ever say no to your dog, get higher value treats, right? And what happens when I cook steak and he doesn't want the steak? And then the other spectrum of like, yep, just correct the shit out of him. He does something wrong, hit him with the e-collar, okay? And in between these, I just was like, well, this isn't working and this isn't working. So I don't know what to do now, right? And so I'm on this pathway to knowledge and try to figure out what's going on with my dog. And I find things that are like in the middle, right? Yes, we should say no to our dog. Yes, we should also be teaching our dog what we want them to be doing, okay? And what I definitely found was a heavier emphasis on teaching our dog what we want them to be doing before teaching them what we don't want them to be doing. And there's, a whole conditioning phase. I mean, I remember watching this video of this trainer using an e-collar on a dog who, reminded me a lot of my dog. And he was like, yeah, we're conditioning the dog to the e-collar and all this. And I was like, what does conditioning mean? Like, my last trainer just put it on him and started pushing buttons, right? So I'm like, oh, this is interesting. This is new. I've not heard of this before. And I was immediately intrigued, okay? But that was the game-changing moment for me, that I was like, oh, so there is actually more to this tool that I don't understand, and I want to understand it, okay? But even then, once I figured that out, I was like, oh shit, we need to go back to the basics. We need to go way back. We need to get this other stuff figured out first before I even think about getting my hands on an e-collar, right? So we have the ability to teach you what you want to do with your dog, whatever your goals are. If you don't want to use an e-collar, you don't have to use an e-collar. You want to keep your dog on a leash all the time? Fine, keep your dog on a leash. That's totally acceptable, right? It's like whatever's going to work for you. But again, I think it's important to understand that like there are other options out there, right? No matter what you're dealing with, easy, happy-go-lucky dog, fearful dog, aggressive dog, all of that stuff. There is a lot of options out there for you. And I don't believe in extremes. And if a group of people are demonizing you for wanting to go that route or explore that route, I would go the other way. You know what I mean? Like, it feels like extremism. It's like no one's out there trying to hurt your dog, or at least I would hope so. And I know you, the dog owner, aren't out there trying to hurt your dog, And so, we have a bunch of videos on our Instagram page. We have a YouTube page that show us using these tools, dogs on them. It's not every dog, but some dogs are, you know what I mean? So have an open mind, I think, is very important when it comes to dog training. Not limiting yourself, having options. A robust toolbox is only going to be helpful, you know what I mean? We don't do those, so I don't know what else to do, right? It's like, oftentimes those are the trainers that are like, you just need more lessons. You need more lessons. You need more lessons. You need more lessons. It's like, no, you don't need more lessons. You just need a better trainer. So anyway, this was a little bit longer than my usual ones. I like to try to keep them about 10 minutes. But if you have questions, you can shoot them here. You can also shoot me messages on Instagram. DM me there. But, we have a lot of different training programs. The most popular one we have is a Smart Start program. It's 5 lessons long. It builds the fundamentals. It's definitely for dogs who haven't had a lot of training before. But that's going to be the pathway to off-leash e-collar work if you are interested in that. We do also have limited board and trains available. And I'm also coming out with an intensive 4-week program. It's online only. But this is going to also, it's just the fundamentals, right? It's like it builds your skill set so that if you want to venture out and do more with your dog, that's going to be a really great starting point, and we cover a lot in 4 weeks. So there's also more information about that on my website at www.kindreddogpdx.com. So if you found this episode helpful, maybe share it with someone who's maybe on the fence about e-collars or prong collars, things like that. They're not bad tools. Yes, people can do harm with them, but, it's the same thing like, a hammer. A hammer is meant to hammer nails, but someone can also use it to hit somebody. You know what I mean? It's not the tool, it's the fool. So, again, if you have questions, definitely hit me up. This is the Kindred Dog Podcast. And if you like this stuff, like it, subscribe to it, share it, all of that good stuff. It's super helpful for us to get the word out. Yeah, hope you all have a great day. We'll talk to you later. Bye.